I just want women to walk in their purpose, their calling, to be free, to walk healthy. I want them out of abusive relationships. I want to see them in best place that they can be for the time that they're here, the better wives and mothers and sisters and aunts and business professionals and, all those things. And hurting people hurt other people.
Yeah, they do.
And I want to keep that from happening too.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your guest, your host, actually, Dwan Schweifert. I'm America's most sought after real estate investor. And I'm so excited that you are here with me on another episode. And today I have a wicked smart woman. So that's going to be an awesome show today. And our motto at Dwanderful is people before profits. So if that is something that resonates with you and you like that idea, I want you to go to dwanderful.com, opt in. I've got a free ebook for you on how to wholesale houses. And basically, I teach everyone how to make money investing in real estate. So I took my name Dwan and the word wonderful and made Dwanderful. That's how that came to be. And I really feel like life is about more than just real estate investing. Y'all have heard me talk about the 5 equities of life: spiritual, financial, family, mental, your physical. It's all important. And that's why I'm so excited about my guest today. I have Miss Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch. I said it right. Gottsch like
awesome.
Dutch. Gottsch like Dutch. So how are you today, Mischelle?
Hey, I'm just doing great. What can I say? Got my cup, sparked your podcast. Podcasting is my jam.
Oh,
Got
I
some
love it.
cinnamon coffee and my cinnamon Altoid.
There you go. Well, I actually only have a bottle of water today, but we do start each podcast off with a toast. So I drank most of my water before I started. So let's have our toast. And welcome to my show, and welcome to the world of Dwanderful. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
And I always tell everybody, take a big breath, take a stretch, clear your mind, because our minds get full of everything and get bogged down. So clear your mind, and we are just going to have some fun today. So Mischelle, I just basically kind of throw you straight out to the wolves. I want you to tell us in a really short, your name, how people can reach you, and what you do. And then I have some really fun questions that I'm going to go back and ask you and find out how you came to be who you are right now.
Man, I love this. You're amazing, gal. And thank you for the opportunity, really, truly. So as Dwan said, my name is Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch, and quickly, I am the CEO and founder of Altered Stories Ministry, which is a faith-based nonprofit located in Overland Park, Kansas, where we help Christian women share their God stories so women around the world can hear them. And also, Dwan, you had one other question you wanted me to answer. I apologize.
How do people get
Yes, you can get a hold of me on social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also
under your name,
Instagram.
Or do you have like a business name, or is it under
business name? Altered Stories Ministry. On all those platforms, pretty much, in my own name, Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch, on most of those platforms. And also our website, www.alteredstories.org. So you should be able to get a hold of me any of those locations, check it all out because we really appreciate all the love.
Oh, I know you do. And the thing I really love about your what you do, you and I had a little bit of a pre-call the other day, and I have to tell you, nobody ever does a pre-call with me. They just, oh yeah, I know who Dwan is. They watch my pod and they have me on. And I thought, she wants to interview me to make sure I'm going to be a good enough guest. Like, what is that? Because no one's ever done that in the whole 4 years I've been podcasting. So I was like, I don't know if I like this or not, like pre-interviewing. But then we started talking, and I totally understand why you do it, 100%. And then after we talked and we loved each other, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have you on my show.
So cool that you do that. That is
Yeah.
really kind, because I can't tell you the number of people I've had on my podcast that are podcasters. And I have been invited to their shows, but not always been a fit. But you know what? I think it's really cool when another podcaster asks another podcaster to come on their show.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
bought
it's very,
tickets
very
to
cool.
the podcast movement in Denver. I already bought the tickets. I got the whatever the big package is so that you can go to everything. So we are going to meet and have a drink when you're in Denver, because I'm going to stay at that
Love it.
hotel. The hotel's from where I live. The hotel's about an hour and a half. It's up by the airport. So I already booked the room,
Okay.
and I bought the big pro whatever package is, and they sent me a thing to fill out something to see if I might be able to be a speaker there. So thank you for that, because I didn't even know all that was happening.
Oh my gosh, I just am in some groups. And so as a result of those groups, I've been able to get, updates on a lot of these conferences. And then I'm speaking, as I shared with you, at the Global Podfest Summit, which is a virtual at the end of the month. And I've done that twice. They're awesome. And then, I was like encouraged to like go and speak at the podcast movement. And since I spent so much time in Denver and know so many people there, I thought, hey, we'll see what I can bring, if anything. You've obviously got incredible gifting and talent.
Now you know
so
me too.
I think you and I will have a blast.
Yeah, we will. We were sure. I told my husband, I was like right in the car. I went right online and got a ticket right there. I was like, I am definitely going to that. I'm like, I don't care if there's 200 people, 2,000 people, just to be in a whole room full of other people that podcast is just so exciting. Because I love podcasts.
Absolutely.
So I'm so excited to see what everybody else does with it, So that's exciting.
Yes.
Okay, so your podcast is Altered Stories Ministry. So what does
Altered Story Show. Altered Story Show. And it's confusing. My ministry is Altered Stories Ministry. Altered Story Show is the actual podcast name.
Show. Okay. So tell us, what does that mean? Altered stories. Like, what does that mean to someone I never heard of that term, Altered Stories Show, and I understand it is a ministry. What does that mean, Altered Stories?
Yeah, really, it's stories of redemption, of, overcomers, women who have bravely gone through hard things. And as a result of their faith engagement during those hard things, God showed up in their stories, and there was transformation that took place that altered their story and changed their life direction. So, for instance, I have my story, my altered story of having come out of a childhood cult survivor background.
So are you comfortable if we talk about that?
To some level, yeah, okay. I am. I appreciate you asking. Really, I do.
I understand that not everybody wants to share all the details, but the fact that you're able to start a ministry about altered stories means something fairly traumatic had to have happened to you or someone around you to make you have a heart to want to do that in the first place. Is that, would I be correct to assume that?
Absolutely. You hit it
Because
right on the head.
because I work in the industry. I buy houses from people that are in foreclosure, facing foreclosure. And when I ended up being a single mom that was 30 years old and had a baby and no husband, I got my car repossessed. I lost my house in foreclosure. Like I went through all that. And then I remember thinking, like, God, this sucks. Like, this is the worst thing. This sucks so bad. And how can I help that not happen to other people? And that catapulted me into an industry I've been in for 35 years. So I had a story that got me into what I do. So I assumed that you also would have a story that got you into what you did. So,
Absolutely.
so you were in a cult, and you have to know. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I think 99% of the people in the world, when they hear the word cult, they're like, "Oh my God, tell me all about it," because I mean, people think Christians are in a cult. People think Scientology are in a cult. People think polygamists are in a cult. People think Jim Jones is in a cult. Like, I think anything you do, people are like, "Ah, you're in a cult." I have people all the time like, "Oh, that Christian has a cult," and it's like, no, it's not. It's the word of God. It's the Bible. And if it is, then you know what? I'm all in. so, so that if that's a cult, I'm all in. I'll be the leader, man. I don't care. I'm all in on that. But you survived. I'm assuming like an actual, for real cult. So, do you mind sharing just a little bit about what that entailed? Like, how did you know you were in a
Yeah.
cult?
Yeah. I was at the age of 7 when my mom immersed herself into this cult that
Mhm.
I would call a cult because the leader was uh, way off base. He was a false teacher. He was trying to control people through just their vulnerabilities, essentially.
Yep.
And I, I guess at that age, I really didn't understand what cults
No,
were,
no
but I
7-year-old.
knew,
That.
yeah, we were from the age of 7 up until I was 12. My mom had, us in this cult. And unfortunately, I didn't really understand, what I was in until after I got out. And I experienced the trauma, the after effects, the behaviors, those things that came as a result of being exposed and being in that very highly controlling, abusive,
Very
um,
toxic.
unhealthy group of people, really, and the leader really was the unhealthiest. And so I think that's how I recognized that this was not normal. I mean, um, some of the things that we were exposed to and some of the things that we did, it just didn't feel right. Seeing this man abuse other children in front of everyone, humiliate people in front of everyone, seeing my own mother and how it almost, ruined her relationship with my dad, what my dad had to endure when all
Because he
this
was in
came
the cult there
out.
too, right? Your mom and dad and the
No,
kids.
he wasn't. No,
Oh,
no, my dad wasn't, because it started out very innocently. And my dad thought my mom was just with a group of friends going to a church in a basement, a home church type thing.
yeah, yeah.
And then he was pretty involved in his career, and the real unhealthy pieces of it didn't really start happening until my dad was overseas. Here was my dad, a
Oh,
military man, serving our country and going overseas. And it was during that time when he was deployed and he was deployed for 2 years.
mhm.
And he came back in between. And, I just think a lot of that was my dad wasn't aware of,
Yeah.
because he wasn't informed. And it wasn't
And
until
that
it
makes perfect
escalated
sense. Like, he's overseas. How would he know? Your mom's probably like, oh, everything's fine.
yeah, well, yeah, and I don't think she shared a lot of these things. And I don't think she was encouraged to share. I think they took definitely advantage of her vulnerability there as a woman raising kids and, not having her husband. So, yeah, you know,
So when you got
I
to the
knew there was
age,
something wrong, though. I
yeah, so
knew
you knew
something was
enough
wrong.
because we all have discernment, gut
Yes.
feeling, intuition, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has discernment. Everybody. Like I read a study not long ago. They interviewed 1,000 people. They got
Hmm.
mugged, and they in New York City over not like all last year, but like over the course, they interviewed a
Yes.
thousand people that decided to go down the street and take a shortcut, and like a side street in Manhattan. And they interviewed them, and they said, "Did you have like a gut feeling?" And every single person said, "I looked down the street, I saw the cars in the bushes. I had a gut feeling not to go, but I didn't see any danger, so I went. But the danger was like behind the bush and behind the car." And every single one said, "I had a gut feeling, but I was like, it's just a street. There's lights on. I'm fine." And they went on down because they walked into the danger, but they felt it and they ignored their intuition. And one thing I have learned over all my decades of being a Christian is that discernment and that intuition, that is the Holy Spirit telling you something's not right. And people need to learn how to
It
listen
is.
to that. Because you might not see the danger. Like at 7, you probably didn't see the danger. But at 12, you're getting older. You're like, okay, this doesn't feel right. Like in here, in my spirit, something's not right here. So people
Oh, yes.
feel it, but most people don't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, I did what I could to try to manage between two worlds. Okay. The world that I existed in, where I had to live and have peace with others. And when you revolted or you spoke your mind or you rocked the boat, you
Yeah,
were humiliated. To, trying to hide what I was enduring, what I was going through, and still be brave and be the achiever, the person I am, and be who I was with my other friends,
yeah,
because we were so isolated. That's an indicator right there. Isolation,
it is.
control. People want to isolate people
Yes,
and
they do.
get them away
All
from
the cult
other
people I've ever
people.
read about, they want to keep you isolated because if you're isolated, you
Yes.
think it's normal.
Yes,
It's like kids that
exactly.
get, maybe beat at home. They assume everyone gets beat at home until they go to school and their other friends say, "No, I don't get beat." They don't, or kids that are like really poor, they live out in the middle of the country. They don't even know they're poor until they go to school around kids who are not poor. They don't even know because that's
Yes.
their normal.
Right.
So we all,
Exactly.
like I lived in the country on 10 acres and we had cows and chickens and pigs and a garden. And I thought everybody had those things. And then when I started going to school, people were like, "No, I live in town. I live here. I got this little backyard." And I'm like, I'm out there like slopping the hogs and like, plucking the chickens. Like, does not everybody live this way? Because I don't know. You don't have things to compare it to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But thankfully, there were others that were in this unhealthy, toxic group that were like me, that weren't completely on board. And there were people that actually were leaving. You would see people come and go. And so, some people figured it out,
Mhm.
other people didn't. And so the blessing in it is my mom figured it out.
So I
It
was going
was
to ask, did you
5
figure it
years.
out and start saying to your mom, like, "Hey, something's wrong"? Or did your mom start going like, "Hey, this isn't right. And these are my kids and I have to protect them"? So your mom,
I really think that there was a culmination of things. One is I rebelled. I was starting to rebel And when I was doing that, my grades dropped, and I was doing behaviors that I would never have ever done, you know, and I was going to the principal's office at school, and, you know, there was just a red flag. And then unfortunately, my brother left home. My parents essentially lost custody of him. And, you know, there were some wake up calls, and there were some family dynamics that really, I think, and then there was media that got involved in the community where he was living, and someone went to the media and he was exposed. So there was a culmination of
Thank
things
goodness
that
though.
transpired.
Thank goodness. And thank
Oh
goodness it
man.
wasn't one of those cults where like, okay, when the media comes, we're all going to commit suicide.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
so many people have done that. It's like, oh my gosh, people.
Oh, yeah. No, thankfully, because there was a series of things that had transpired prior to that too. And, you know, I think my dad was pretty much giving my mom an ultimatum, and then she chose him. She
Thank
did
God.
not choose staying there.
Thank God.
But it took her some time to get out of her mindset. I mean, I do believe she was truly brainwashed. And I do believe that there are people that do get brainwashed. And I do believe it's very sick. It's very sick. It's very deceptive.
It's like
And
the Stockholm syndrome. You do become to think. I'm like, without saying too much, I had a little situation with my daughter where she got involved in something, and it was very Stockholm syndrome-ish, and it was not an easy thing to deal with.
no, it's not. And I think in my mom's heart of hearts, now her and I, just to preface this, my mom and I, when she left this earth, we had a really good relationship, and we did rectify and, you know, all those things. And she knew that I was planning on starting this ministry and all of the things that I'm doing now. She was well aware of, and she was on board
She gave
with
you her
what I was
blessing.
doing. She did, because I think she knew, and she was trying to, you know, just do her reconciliation and restoration and all those things, having been, you know, involved in being the one who brought, you know, her children into that.
And
So
how
she
many
carried
siblings?
in a
How
lot
many
of
siblings?
guilt.
How many siblings are there?
Well, at that time, there were two of us.
Okay.
And well, actually three. When I think about, yeah, three. There were three. But toward the end, my mom, you know, my little sister was moved on out of it. So thankfully, she wasn't exposed for too long.
For too long. Now I know,
Mhm.
I don't want to ask you a lot of really personal questions because you mentioned the abuse and the kids. My mind can only imagine all of the horrible things that happen. But when you guys, I think the thing it's all, first of all, it all interesting to me. I would love to talk to you for 10 hours about all of it because I see it, and it's like, and people say, oh, how could you be involved in a cult? It's like, but when you're in something like that, you don't know it. This is the thing you're in. You're following this person or that person. You don't know that it's not right until you suddenly realize this is not right. And then getting out is
Well,
very, very difficult. I have some people I know that have left Scientology, and it's like no joke. They like literally ruin your life if they can. And nobody hate on me for Scientology. I just know some people, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's like, holy cow.
yes, it is. And I think, you know, we can all get into that place of being cultish.
Oh, we
Okay.
can.
I mean, it's just,
Everybody.
but yeah. But the thing that I want to impress on people is the discernment, like you and I talked about, in knowing a healthy leader versus an unhealthy leader.
Yes.
And my mom, being a Catholic and raised in a large Catholic family back east, And having, come out of that generation as a mom,
Yeah.
stay home now, raise your children, even though she was in the service, she was a baby Christian.
Yeah.
And I have to say, some baby Christians, if you're not discipled or you don't have guidance around, your understanding of Christianity and the Bible, and, you don't have people around you that
Yeah.
can help you as you grow. I think, my mom, she was, but I'm studying this book. It's called The Other Half of Church, and it talks about left brain and right brain. And my mom was a right-brained Christian. Okay. And interestingly, the man who wrote it is from the Denver area.
Really?
And yeah, he has there's another person that wrote with him, but this is quite interesting. But talks about right and left brain. But anyway, talking in those terms, my mom was looking for family connection, relationships, community.
Yep.
She
Because she was
found that
looking
through,
for the right things.
she was, and
She
my
was
dad was in the
looking.
military.
Your
He
dad's
was
in the
gone.
military, and she's raising the kids, and she's
Yep,
legitimately looking for the right things, and just fell into the wrong crowd.
vulnerably she did, and she didn't really know how to discern her truth.
Yeah.
And I think then she was immersed, the connection was there, the soul, in her, I guess, in
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
emotional side and
Oh
all
yeah.
that. And then she was having a difficult time distinguishing, the things that were transpiring, I think. And then she had to go through a series of hard things,
Yeah.
I mean, my baby sister, I remember going over to this man and his wife's home. My mom, because my dad was not, he was serving out of the country,
Right.
needed somebody to watch my sister and I. So we went over there. Well, I saw how he treated my sister, my baby sister, and I was very upset. I was very upset. I told my mom, I felt it was too hard. My mom got upset. And this man made a big deal out of this, humiliated my mom in front of all these people that supposedly we, were part of this unhealthy, toxic group.
Yeah.
And so, that was a way of trying to control, and I think just a few of those kinds of incidents were red flags for my mom finally when it was starting to affect her kids. And
So,
then he was trying to step in as the husband.
oh,
You see what I'm saying? I
hey,
mean, it just got so creepy.
yeah, no, I have such a vivid imagination. I watch every single thing I think in the world that ever comes out about about cult things and stuff, because it is so fascinating how but that person has to have like a lot of charisma, and they to get people to want to follow them, and you're like, oh my gosh, and this is like, almost like the Messiah, and you get all into, and I get that. So, and I don't know if this is even a question that you could answer easily, but if a person would happen to be listening, and they're like, my family's involved in this or this, or I know a sister or a family member or a friend, and I think they might be in a cult, how would someone, like, let's just say I had a friend, how would someone like me go and say, hey, Mischelle, listen, I love you. I think you're in a cult, because people are going to be like, no, you're stupid. And they'll probably cut you off, because the cult would say that person's a bad person. They're toxic. Get rid of them. So how would somebody try to approach somebody to say, hey, is there any piece of this that doesn't seem like it's right? I mean, people have to do that. Families have to try to save people.
They
It's,
do. And they do interventions.
oh, intervention. Okay.
Okay. And I mean, Netflix has a lot of documentaries out there on cults. And I'm very, sensitive to all of that having come out of it. And I just see, how horrible, horrible it is for people that are immersed in it. And they're just how the leader just really uses it just abuse. It's so abusive and everything. But, I would say you have to really discern whether the person's going to listen to you, or, you have to gain their trust and respect already. And if, I think it's a very hard thing, because until a person sees it for themselves, they're not going to do anything.
No, they
They're
think you're
not.
the crazy one. Like, what do you mean I'm in a
Yeah.
cult? You're a nut.
I'm-
They think, and then they get rid of you.
It's, or they'll shun you, and then they won't have anything to do with you at all. So you have to really, I think personally, you should consult an expert, a cult expert, or someone that can kind of guide you and give you advice on how to approach someone that you love dearly, or someone that's in this, because it's really, really hard for people to receive. They think you're the devil,
Well,
is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
They see it as you're Satan, or you're the devil, or evil. And that's how the cult leader, they bullied my mom and others when we were in this group, that if you left, you were going to burn in hell for the rest of your life.
Going to hell, the demons got you.
Yeah.
God won't let you into heaven.
The outside world, and all of this is all, it's really crazy how these cult leaders think, and how they, but it's in Mormonism, it's in, like you said, it's in Scientology, it's in, please, people, don't scream at me, but it is out there in these various religious groups. It's
like
that are also,
sight.
And it's in even the Mennonites, or in other, like, Amish, you know what I'm saying? And then when you're born in it, and then you raise your kids, it's just almost impossible for people to break free, but they do. And they do have a lot of people who have come to the media and have shared their stories about it. I didn't have a way to share my story.
But
I
you're
was so young.
It now.
Yes.
It
took me a long time. And that's what brought me to why I'm doing what I'm doing, because when I started sharing, when I wrote it out, when I started to open up, when I started to trust other people, when I started the process, and even had to go in and see a counselor. I had to spend time with the stress management counselor and all that, because of the trauma and everything. And I had to deal with all the hard things.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I was going to sort of ask the next question. So when you recognize and you get out, or someone has an intervention, or whatever happens that makes you finally see, like, wow, I am legitimately in a cult, or was in a cult, and I know there's a lot of trauma. How does that work for trusting people again? There has to be I would think, and I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, if it was me, I'm thinking my hardest obstacle would be to trust people, like, forever.
Only God, Dwan, only God. That's my altered story, because I hated Christians. I actually hated Christians. I wanted nothing to do with Christianity at all.
Yeah.
And I did not trust anyone.
Yeah.
I didn't trust my mom.
Yes. You're
I
betrayed
didn't
by your
trust,
family.
yeah, I didn't trust people. I didn't trust, their motives. I really didn't trust any televangelist, anyone, that's outside the norm of a more traditional governance accountability group. It took me a long time.
Can I ask you how old you
are? Sure. I'm 62.
You are not.
I am. Shut up, girl.
Like
I'm
amazing.
62.
I just turned 64 a month ago.
Hey, that's 60s. We rock. What can I say?
I'm like sexy and 60.
I know. It's the way it is.
Sexy and 60. I'm hanging on to that for my whole 60s.
Hey, sexy and 60 is where it's at. Look at Christy Brinkley.
That's right. I know. I saw her on TV once. I was like, what?
No, I think 60s, I don't know. I think it's all in the mindset, but also
30.
We can say that. Yes.
When I turned 60, I was like, I'm going to say 60, sexy, and sassy for an entire decade.
It's good. Do it. I was at Bible study this morning at my church. Oh my gosh, Dwan. This woman is 80. She comes in and she's got this rockin' blonde hair. She's so adorable. And she's articulate and she's so, oh my gosh. I said, if I could be like you at 80, man, she's got something going on. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said to purpose.
It is. My mom's 80 and she's got that really beautiful wavy silver hair. She puts purple in her hair and she goes line dancing. It's like, could you just be any cuter?
I love it. I love our seniors.
I know.
I do love our seniors.
So when you're coming out, and God obviously would have to help you trust, is there like a time frame? Was it like a decade, 2 decades? Still maybe you don't trust today? Like, because I know people go through all kinds of counseling for all the things that have happened. I mean, we all have stuff, but some people obviously have much worse than somebody else. Is there ever a point where you're like, okay, so for me, like that was my mess, and then that became my message. And I think for you, it's like that was your mess, and now that's your message.
It is. I will say I'm a work in progress.
Still. But I feel like you're just such a nice, you have such a good spirit. I feel like any women that you're talking or helping or working, I sense that they would really be able to trust you.
That is what I've got going on.
Yeah.
There is this is why I do what I do. It's a gift. I believe it's an anointing.
Yes.
I do believe God gives me the ability to discern these things with women. And there's a healing anointing that goes with it. And I think I had to go through that, myself. And I just think, I'm coming from a place, I think, of having come through hard things.
Yes.
And overcoming those things and taking those things and making my story, my altered story, into a redemption story.
Yes.
And one that others can glean from and take and, maybe relate to. And I think that the women that I interview and I talk to, which the reason I do talk to these women prior to me going on camera with them or going is for trust primarily, because most of these women have these hard stories and they don't want to just share them. Some have already, and some are out there in their ministries like mine. It's a little easier. But, some of the women, these are new. These stories are new, and this is new.
Yeah. It's hard to help. When I first started sharing my story about, my life before and my husband and just all the deceit, just all of it. I mean, I didn't get married to my husband. Now, I was single for 13 years. It took me a full decade to even have this much trust to have a boyfriend, because I was like, men are pigs, men are dogs. All they do is lie. I'm done with men. I mean, 13 years is a really long time to.
It is.
I didn't even go out. I was just like, no, all men are dogs. So
I went through that,
I
having
get
come
it.
out of a rough first marriage. Yes,
Yeah,
I did
I
go
get
through
it.
that too.
And my first husband, he beat me up. We were only married 3 months, and this was like the greatest man in the world. Started beating the shit out of me, like immediately after we got married. Well, you're mine. I can do whatever I want to do with you now. And I was like, and my second husband was the whole thing that I had a daughter and all that. And then I was like, okay, I'm 2 for 2. I'm 30. So I hate men. Men are dogs. And then I met my husband, and it was 13 years, but I had been in a lot of Bible studies, and I'll tell you more when I'm on your show. But I
I
had been
can't
in a lot
wait.
of singles retreats, and really spent a lot of time learning to trust and what did I really want and what did God want for me. And but when I met my husband, I mean, within minutes, I felt this like jumping in my spirit, and I was like, holy cow, this is the guy right here. I'm marrying this guy. And 4 days later, he's like, listen, you and I are getting married, just so you know. And if someone had said that to me even 2 years before that, I would have been like, no, men are still dogs. So,
Well, and God's timing is perfect too. I mean, he knows. I mean, my first husband, I left when I was pregnant with our daughter.
yeah.
And, having come out of what I had come out of, and then jumping into another very controlling relationship and abusive, is not physically, mentally, I mean, I wasn't my mental strength. I mean, Don, I just want to encourage anyone here that's listening to really work on your mental strength, your faith and trusting God, and all those things are so important. But you've also got to, through your trauma and through all the healing and everything, you have to develop mental strength,
And I
because it's
believe,
so critical. It's so critical for you being able to endure and go through some things and discern things. And, it's just really important too.
I
Mental
do you,
health is just as
so
important,
important. Do you ever watch
physical,
Joyce
spiritual.
Meyer by chance?
I haven't in a long time, but
Oh,
I used to all the
I
time.
love
And I
her.
went to a great study of hers in Denver area there.
Yeah.
And it was a transformational kind of thing. I mean, this is moving me into my second marriage with my husband now. And man, she's got it going on.
She's
She
got it,
really
but
does.
she was sexually abused. She figured up when I watch her. I watch 30 minutes of Joyce every day. That's like, and I just love the woman. But I have also saw her in Denver. If it was like the one that was like 4 or 5 years ago, we were probably both there. And
Well, this was a lot longer than that, but I
she
wish.
talks about she had figured it up at one point that her dad had raped her over 2,000 times. And now she's coming up on 80. And she's like, if I hadn't gone through that, I don't believe I'd be here helping the people that I'm helping. And so sometimes the things that we go through, as much as we hate it, it's almost like it was some weird blessing in disguise, because it lets you open the door for other people that maybe would not get out of it if it wasn't for you specifically.
Yeah, I just think that God uses our pain.
He
And
does.
if we allow him to, he will take it and turn it for good, for his glory. And I do think that in itself is, to me, a testament of that, your pain is for nothing. Isn't, you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
isn't, I
yeah.
mean, that beauty from ashes
Need him
kind of
ashes. Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that we triumph that way,
We do.
you know? And so it's, some people get beaten down and they 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 can't
They
get
never
back
come back
up.
from it. They can't recover
They
from it.
can't make it.
And I know that I've known a few people that have been sexually abused by their one girl specifically, that by her dad for so many years, that she tried to go to church, she tried these things, and like she just committed suicide. Like she just couldn't, and
Yeah,
that is
it breaks
such,
my heart when that
oh
that
God,
that
I was so
happens. It's so
devastated. I
real.
mean, so devastated, like beyond words for so long over that. And it's like, wow, but people we women, especially, we are mentally stronger than we think.
Right.
If we'll really just be like, okay, this is what happened. How do I get, like, God didn't take me out of it, but he brought me through it. He brought me
Yes.
to it. He brought me through it. Because I think sometimes people are like, why is God punishing me? It's like, hey, the devil's alive and well on planet Earth. If you don't think the devil's roaming around, just look at all the pedophiles and all the crazy crap that's happening. And God,
Right.
may bring you to it, and he brings you through it. And I just kind of feel like if you get brought through it, like that's basically giving you a ministry and an opportunity to help other people that
Right.
really are just discovering this horrible thing and they don't know what to do. And instead of them turning to drugs or suicide or something, if they find a person like you or even a person like me, they go, hey, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it too. And with
It's so
God's help,
true.
with
It's
God's
so
help, for
true.
sure.
Yes, it is so true. And, God just works in crazy ways and how he connects people. And,
Yeah.
I do think that if people reach out and, to God and however, you know, through their church or through their own prayers or how they choose to do reading the Bible or, maybe groups that they're in or whatever. But I do think God is a God who loves us so much
He loves
and
us.
cares, and he wants us to go through things with him. I mean, he understood he came to this earth as, Jesus,
Yep.
and was the Son of Man and went through trials, tribulations, rejection, all those things, hurt, went to the cross
Yeah, I know.
for us.
For us. I
So
know.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I just think that, people sometimes have a hard time with that understanding. It takes some time and all those things, and the Holy Spirit works differently with each person.
Yeah, he does.
So that, that's the thing. But, here we are today conversing, talking, all those things, Dwan. And I don't think it was an accident that we
No.
connected.
I'm so happy. I told you, I said, I am so happy I met this woman. I said, I can't wait to see her in Denver. I'm definitely going to have a meal or a drink or something. I'm going to steal her away for a few minutes. And I felt the same way. I felt like, this was like just one of those like ordained meetings, because even though we have very different backstories, we're in
Right.
the same place where we really are trying to help people
Yes.
take that mess and that disaster and make it a message and come out of it and be okay and love themselves and know that it's your past. I mean, it's awful. We all have things that are awful, but it doesn't have to be your future. It doesn't have to be the rest of your life. That's the
It
thing.
doesn't.
It doesn't
And
have to be every day living in this horrible nightmare. And but like you said, it takes work, it takes God, it takes time, it takes healing. And I don't know that anybody's ever done healing.
no, I think we continue to heal.
I
Like
think
I just signed a book contract to write my book. I signed on with Redemption Press. And the written word I've had to write out my story,
yes.
and I've done that before. I've gone on to other shows and shared, and it's so different when you write it out. So I definitely encourage everyone to go to the written word, write it out. But this big undertaking, it's huge. I mean, this to me, this is huge.
It's so huge. It's funny you said that, because I was thinking, like, this woman if she hasn't written a book, she needs to write a book. Like, you need a book, and you need to be like on Dr. Phil. You have got some stuff to say.
Well, the Lord will open those doors. Right now, the Christian Broadcasting Network 700 Club is looking at my story. But, I just will let God lead as he needs to for what I need to be sharing so that I can encourage. I just want women to walk in their purpose, their calling, to be free, to walk healthy. I want them out of abusive relationships. I want to see them in, the best place that they can be for the time that they're here, the better wives and mothers and sisters and aunts and business professionals and, all those things. And hurting people hurt other people.
Yeah, they do.
And I want to keep that from happening too, So wherever I can make a difference, I want to be able to do that. And so I've been fortunate.
Your story is so inspiring. Part of me wants to cry and part of me wants to just clap and cheer for you. Your story is unbelievable. I will be one of the first people to buy your book. And I'm so excited for my people on my podcast to hear and talk, because people don't know where to go, who to trust, who to talk to, like they don't know where to start. And you having the Altered Stories Ministry, you have a starting point for people. You have at least hey,
I do.
This is a starting point, and you at least have a place that can catapult them into the great life that God wants them to have. And having a starting point, I would feel like having a starting point would be the biggest issue, because who do you trust to get a starting point with when you've been through stuff like that?
That's really my intention, is to do whatever I can to give women a platform. And it is my hope and prayer that next year I'll be able to host a Story Inside of You retreat, to bring women together so that they can learn how to listen and to get to a place of where they can tell their story, and identify that. And I've got a place there in the Springs. I'm hoping that I can host my first retreat there.
Wow.
But vision, God's given me so much vision, and it's amazing what you can do when you put yourself out there and you walk in faith. It's definitely a walk of faith.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah.
It's a big, scary walk, but it just is what I'm being called to do. So
I love it. So I'm going to ask a couple just super random questions. What's your favorite band of all time?
Whoa, that's a tough one. Eagles.
Oh, I love the Eagles. We just saw them in concert a couple of years ago. I was like, I love the Eagles. What's your favorite food?
Italian.
I love it. I like to ask people what they eat, what music do they listen to? What's your favorite part of the day?
Morning.
Nice. You can tell a lot about a person by the music they listen to. The Eagles is one of the best bands ever.
Well, I'm into Christian worship music too. I love elevation worship. I love, but I mean, the Eagles are one of those incredible groups that
we
just
were teenagers.
I know.
I mean, it's
I know all that. I mean, I just, they were just fabulous. Chicago was another one that I really loved.
That's my husband's favorite group of all time, Chicago.
They're so gifted that, I mean, so all of them, and there's so many incredible groups, there really are, and even now, but,
I like the music back in the 70s more, because everything wasn't so synthesized and people really had to have talent and they had to really play all the instruments. And now everything is just electronic and so synthesized and they're so dubbed over. It's what happened to the bands that literally just got up there and rocked it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, Eric Clapton, what a phenomenal guitarist.
Oh, so great. I love it. I think him a concert. I'm a big concert person. I've seen probably every band that there is in the whole entire 70s, at least once. And
I'll tell you, living in Colorado there in the Red Rocks and Fiddler's Green. I mean, I went to tons. I was there almost 30 years. So love Red Rocks.
Yeah, the last band I saw at Red Rocks, I saw Tom Petty.
Oh, I bet that was fabulous.
And you're in Red Rocks. If y'all don't know it, you Google Red Rocks. It's an amphitheater.
So cool.
And you're there, and it's Tom Petty, and you're looking over Denver, and it was a clear night, and it was Thank you, Lord, for all this wonderful talent. It couldn't have been a better night. It was so perfect.
Yes,
So
I
perfect.
agree with
Ross
you.
is the best.
I agree.
You know, I've seen a bunch of bands, a lot. Beatles, I think even Tom Petty. A bunch of people have been interviewed. They said Red Rocks is their most favorite place they've ever played.
You know, I think so. I mean, there's just something incredible. I saw Whitney Houston, Bonnie Raitt, John
At Red
Tesh
Rocks?
at Red Rocks.
Oh,
I
my
saw Whitney Houston sing at Red Rocks.
gosh.
Oh, she was just phenomenal. And, you know, I've seen Christian bands, To
Oh, yeah,
Mercy
me too.
Me. I've seen Nora Jones, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
a variety of artists, you know, because I like different genres and
I do too.
everything, but I did not see the Eagles at Red Rocks because at that time I think they were more at the old football stadium there
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Denver.
That's where I saw them too. So yeah.
Yeah.
For all of you listening, if you've never been to Red Rocks, you need to put it on your bucket list to go see like a really great band at Red Rocks because it honestly, there is nothing in the world like it. Once you've
There
done
isn't.
it, you're like, there's no venue like Red Rocks.
There really isn't. I was thinking of coming out there this summer, but if I can catch a concert, I'm hoping Podcast Movement will accept my application to speak, then I can, you know, of course, get some break and discount there. But
Hey,
I
if there's
would
a
love to
concert
be
the
able to
week that
go.
you're here, I'll go to it with you.
We should do that. That
I
would be
don't care
fun.
who it is. I'll go see anybody at Red Rocks. I don't care. I listen to everything from bluegrass to country to rock to today's music to beat to electronic to gospel. I listen to all of it. I love all music.
Me too,
I love
Dwan.
any music.
I do too.
I'll go watch a bluegrass concert. I don't care. I'll go see any kind of. I love music. I like live music.
I do too.
Especially live
yes.
music.
Live
Okay,
music.
so
Yes.
So again, folks, thank you so much for listening today. And Mischelle is just, gosh darn, girl, you're just like, my heart's just so touched today. I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on, and I really appreciate you being so open. And I just know God has such good things in store for you to help other women and to continue your own healing journey. And your book is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. So I like to leave everybody with one last thing is I want you to give me a parting word of wisdom, but it can only actually be one word.
Storytelling.
Storytelling.
One
All right,
word.
guys. That is your word of the week is storytelling. It's a beautiful word. All right, so everyone can reach you at www.alteredstoriesministry.org. You're on all the
alteredstories.org. Just alteredstories.org.
alteredstories.org. Okay, I'm sorry. I wrote down.
That's all right.
Okay, alteredstories.org. So I'll make sure my show notes gets it. I like to put it in the show notes a bunch of places.
Thank you.
Alteredstories.org. And if you are dealing with anything, or you know anyone, or you've been through it, or you see someone that you know, talk, get the intervention, tell somebody. And if you don't know where to start, I say start right here with this young lady because you got it going on.
Thank you. I can't wait to have you on my show.
I know, we're going to have so much fun. I'm excited too. And everyone, remember, I'm Dwan Benton-Twyford, Dwanderful.com. And we'll be back next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. And remember that the truth is in the red letters. Okay, everybody. Ciao. And Mischelle, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Dwan.